This is Reason Revolution. I'm your host, Justin Clark. Thank you so much for joining us this week. This week is the Christmas special. I love Christmas, I love the holidays, and I love this time of year, and I can't wait to get into all the really interesting things I'm going to be sharing with you in this episode, particularly readings from the late, great, free-thinking orator, Robert Ingersoll. He has a lot of great writings on Christmas. I can't wait to unpack those with you. But before we get into that, I just wanted to share with you my story for why an atheist like me would celebrate Christmas. When I became an atheist at 19, one of the first questions I got, especially from family members, was, "Are you still going to celebrate Christmas?" And my answer was always, "Of course I am. I love Christmas time." And my rationale for that was always, well, Christmas is a federal holiday. The post office is closed and almost everybody in the country celebrates Christmas. In fact, here in the United States, more people celebrate Christmas than identify as Christians. So I don't see any real problem with wanting to celebrate Christmas. I love it. And the vast majority of what we love about Christmas isn't really about Christ or Jesus or Christianity. A lot of it is basically pagan. Christianity kind of stole from all of the wonderful pagan traditions of old, like Saturnalia and other holidays that sort of celebrated long-term traditions like putting up a Christmas tree, which actually there's a phrase in the Bible that talks about how Christmas trees are bad, which is kind of funny. But Christmas trees and giving gifts to people and spending time with family and food. And I can't remember where I heard this from, but I think it's a good point. If you went out in front of a church, any church here in the United States, and you asked any person coming out, what do they most look forward to with Christmas? 9 times out of 10, they're going to say things like family, food, gifts, friendship, all those wonderful things, hope and joy and good tidings and all that stuff, before they actually bring up Jesus. Most people are going to talk about the wonderful things that we love to do around the time of year rather than the reason for the season. And for me anyway, Christmas is a time of year where I can get together with family and enjoy the camaraderie with them, enjoy the time I have with them, reminisce about old times and memories and all kinds of great things, and have wonderful food. It's one of the few times during the year that I get to eat a lot of ham. My wife doesn't like ham, so we don't really keep it around the house. And so having wonderful, like, thick slices of smoked ham is like, oh, it's the greatest thing ever. I love it. I absolutely love it. Mashed potatoes, gravy, cheesy potatoes, turkey, all that good stuff that we love during the Christmas time. Or if you do something a little bit non-traditional, for some Christmases, my grandma has done lasagna. I think this year for Christmas, we're going to be doing pizza. We always try to change it up a little bit because, we're always going to get that sort of traditional holiday fare at some of the main events like my sister's or whatever. But I love the food and I love to spend time with folks. And it's just a really wonderful time of year. And to me, Christmas is about just that. And that's the sort of humanistic message of Christmas. That really doesn't have anything to do with religion. It's all about coming together and having a great time and enjoying one another and letting the hard parts of your year kind of wash away and enjoying each other while we're all still here and enjoying life. So that's really what Christmas is to me, and I absolutely love Christmas time, and I especially love Christmas lights. When I was a little kid, my folks used to drive us around the neighborhood, and we see all the beautiful light displays that people would put up. I used to really love that as a kid. And my mom would sort of deck out the house and all kinds of Christmas stuff. We really didn't put up a lot of Christmas lights. Growing up, my dad was rather busy with his business, so we didn't really have a lot of time to put up Christmas lights. So what we did instead was we would go and look at other people's Christmas lights, and it was just a wonderful time of year to do that. And I always loved it. It always felt great. The other wonderful thing I loved about Christmas was Christmas Eve as a kid was great because that was when my grandmother would come and she would bring her gifts and we'd open up her gifts on Christmas Eve. And that was always the wonderful, fun part of Christmas Eve, was waiting for Grandma. When's Grandma coming? When's Grandma coming? Because she always tended to be kind of late. So when is she coming? When's she coming? When's she coming? And finally, she would get there, and we were so excited, and we'd open up gifts, and we'd have a wonderful time, and it was always really, really great. And then Christmas Day was when we'd get the stuff from Mom and Dad, or stuff from Santa, and that was always really good, too. I believed in Santa for probably far longer than I should have. I think in some respects, it was probably easier to get rid of God than it was for me to get rid of Santa. But the thing about Santa, what really tipped me off as a kid that Santa wasn't real, was that Santa's handwriting was exactly like my mom's. That was when I kind of figured out, I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't Santa. And then you sort of put the two in together. I was probably maybe like 8 or 9 or whatever when that happened. But I love Christmas, and I've always loved Christmas. And this year we're going to be doing a bunch of different holidays. I'm going to be going to my sister's, I'm going to be going to my grandmother's, spending time with my wife's family and her aunt, and we're just going to have a really lovely time. And Christmas is about just that. It's about spending time with people and enjoying the time we have with one another. It's not really about the real reason for the season is us. There's no need for God, and we can just keep the name. Or you can call it whatever, if you celebrate Hanukkah, if you celebrate Kwanzaa, if you celebrate Mawlid an-Nabi, which I just learned about, which is the birth of Muhammad in Islam, if you celebrate that or whatever kind of holidays, even if you're secular. And I think it's all great. I think it's all wonderful. And my whole thing about the whole happy holidays versus Merry Christmas thing is I say them interchangeably. I like happy holidays. I like Merry Christmas too. They don't really matter. If someone says Merry Christmas, I'll say Merry Christmas back. If they say happy holidays, happy holidays. I'm not going to be really that bothered by it because, life's too short to be angry about those little petty things. I think we have more important issues to discuss when we're talking about religion. So, my thinking is someone says Merry Christmas to me, I'm going to be like, all right, thank you. Merry Christmas back or happy holidays. It is what it is. I think it's really funny that people make a mountain out of a molehill. And, but that's what they do. And it is what it is. So with that in mind, we're going to transition into some of the readings that I've found. So I study late 19th century free thought, secularism, atheism here in the United States. And I wrote my master's thesis on Robert Greene Ingersoll, who was this late 19th century orator. He was known as the Great Agnostic. He would give speeches all across the country to sold out crowds, thousands of people, criticizing religion and Christianity, and was a really great early thinker in American sort of atheism and free thought. In many ways was one of the sort of, pardon the expression, but godfathers of secular humanism. And he had a lot of humanistic messages. He was he was an early feminist. He supported birth control. He supported women's rights. He fought in the Civil War. He fought on the side of the Union. He was very much in favor of African Americans getting the right to vote and equal rights and protections under the law. And he was just a pretty forward-thinking guy. And I love Robert Ingersoll, and I love the sort of ideas that he has because he brings such a wit and eloquence and cadence to the words that he uses. So I'm going to be pulling some selections from his collected works that I own. I own a copy of his 12-volume collected works. They're from 1929. They were originally published in 1900. They came out a year after his death. And I really love pouring through these old books and finding some really great gems to share with you. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So this first one I'm going to share with you is called A Christmas Sermon. And don't let the word sermon bother you because it's really a sermon for humanism or atheism or free thought. So here we go. It was originally published in the Evening Telegram on December 19th, 1891. The good part of Christmas is not always Christian. It is generally pagan, that is to say, human, natural. Christianity did not come with tidings of great joy, but with a message of eternal grief. It came with the threat of everlasting torture on its lips. It meant war on earth and perdition hereafter. It taught some good things, the beauty of love and kindness in man. But as a torchbearer, as a bringer of joy, it has been a failure. It has given infinite consequences to the acts of finite beings, crushing the soul with a responsibility too great for mortals to bear. It has filled the future with fear and flame, and made God the keeper of an eternal penitentiary, destined to be the home of nearly all the sons of men. Not satisfied with that, it has deprived God of the pardoning power. And yet it may have done some good by borrowing from the pagan world the old festival called Christmas. Long before Christ was born, the sun god triumphed over the powers of darkness. About the time that we call Christmas, the days began perceptibly to lengthen. Our barbarian ancestors were worshippers of the sun, and they celebrated his victory over the hosts of night. Such a festival was natural and beautiful. The most natural of all religions is the worship of the sun. Christianity adopted this festival. It borrowed from the pagans the best it has. I believe in Christmas and in every day that has been set apart for joy. We in America have too much work and not enough play. We are too much like the English. I think it was Heinrich Heine who said that he thought a blaspheming Frenchman was a more pleasing object to God than a praying Englishman. We take our joys too sadly. I am in favor of all the good free days. The more, the better. Christmas is a good day to forgive and forget. A good day to throw away prejudices and hatreds. A good day to fill your heart and your house and the hearts and houses of others with sunshine. So that's the very first one. I really love that. A Christmas sermon. What a wonderful little essay there. So we're going to move on. We're going to do the next one that I found. He wrote so many of them, and so many of them are really great. So I'm going to be sharing with you some other ones here. So this one comes from the Tribune, the New York Tribune, December 1889. It's called Essay on Christmas. My family and I regard Christmas as a holiday. That is to say, a day of rest and pleasure, a day to get acquainted with each other, a day to recall old memories, and for the cultivation of social amenities. The festival now called Christmas is far older than Christianity. It was known and celebrated for thousands of years before the establishment of what is known as our religion. It is a relic of sun worship. It is the day on which the sun triumphs over the hosts of darkness, and thousands of years before the New Testament was written, thousands of years before the Republic of Rome existed, before one stone of Athens was laid, before the pharaohs ruled in Egypt, before the religion of Brahma, before Sanskrit was spoken, men and women crawled out of their caves, pushed the matted hair from their eyes, and greeted the triumph of the sun over the powers of the night. There are many relics of this worship, among which is the shaving of the priest's head, leaving the spot shaven surrounded by hair, in imitation of the rays of the sun. There is still another relic. The ministers of our day close their eyes in prayer. When men worshiped the sun, when they looked at that luminary and implored its assistance, they shut their eyes as a matter of necessity. Afterward, the priests, looking at their idols glittering with gems, shut their eyes in flattery, pretending that they could not bear the effulgence of the presence. And today, thousands of years after the old ideas have passed away, the modern person, without knowing the origin of the custom, closes his eyes when he prays. There are many other relics and souvenirs of the dead worship of the sun, and this festival was adopted by Egyptians, Greeks, Romans, and by Christians. As a matter of fact, Christianity furnished new steam for an old engine, infused a new spirit into an old religion, and, as a matter of course, the old festival remained. For all of our festivals, you will find corresponding pagan festivals. For instance, take the Eucharist, the Communion, where persons partake of the body and blood of the deity. This is an exceedingly old custom. Among the ancients, they ate cakes made of corn in honor of Ceres, and they called these cakes the flesh of the goddess. And they drank wine in honor of Bacchus, and called this the blood of their god. And so I could go on giving the pagan origin of every Christian ceremony and custom. The probability is that the worship of the sun was once substantially universal, and consequently the festival of Christ was equally widespread. As other religions have been produced, the old customs have been adopted and continued, so that the result is, this festival of Christmas is almost worldwide. It is popular because it is a holiday. Overworked people are glad of days that bring rest and recreation and allow them to meet their families and their friends. They are glad of days when they give and receive gifts, evidences of friendship, of remembrance and love. It is popular because it is really human, and because it is interwoven with our customs, habits, literature, and thought. For my part, I am willing to have 2 or 3 a year. The more holidays, the better. Many people have an idea that I'm opposed to Sunday. All I insist on is that these days shall be for the benefit of the people, and that they shall be kept not in a way to make folks miserable or sad or hungry, but in a way to make people happy, and to add a little to the joy of life. Of course I am in favor of everybody keeping holidays to suit himself, provided he does not interfere with others. And I am perfectly willing that everybody should go to church on that day, provided he is willing that I should go somewhere else. It's a really lovely end there with that, real defense of secularism and freedom. It's really, really nice. As always, it's something that's sort of always interwove through Robert Ingersoll's writings and ideas. So this is from the Journal, New York Journal, December 25th, 1892. And this essay is called The Agnostic Christmas. Again, we celebrate the victory of light over darkness, of the God of day over the hosts of night. Again, Samson is victorious over Delilah, and Hercules triumphs once more over Omphale. In the embrace of Isis, Osiris rises from the dead, and the scowling Typhon is defeated once more. Again, Apollo, with unerring aim, with his arrow from the quiver of light, destroys the serpent of shadow. This is the festival of Thor, of Balder, and of Prometheus. Again, Buddha, by a miracle, escapes from the tyrant of Madura. Zoroaster foils the king. Bacchus laughs at the rage of Cadmus, and Krishna eludes the tyrant. This is the festival of the sun god, and as such, let its observance be universal. This is the great day of the first religion, the mother of all religions, the worship of the sun. Sun worship is not only the first, but the most natural and most reasonable of all. And not only the most natural and the most reasonable, but by far the most poetic, the most beautiful. The sun is the god of benefits, of growth, of life, of warmth, of happiness, of joy. The sun is the all-seeing, the all-pitying, the all-loving. This bright god knew no hatred, no malice, never sought for revenge. All evil qualities were in the breast of the god of darkness, of shadow, of night. And so I say again, this is the festival of light. This is the anniversary of the triumph of the sun over the hosts of darkness. Let us all hope for the triumph of light, of right and reason, for the victory of fact over falsehood, of science over superstition. And so hoping, let us celebrate the venerable festival of the sun. So he certainly knows the importance of the sun in relationship to the holidays we have this time of year, particularly the winter solstice, which happens somewhere around December 21st, December 22nd every year, somewhere around that. So as of this recording, it's in a couple days. And if you're listening to it during the holidays, then it's probably already passed. But the winter solstice is a key moment. It's a key point of this time of year. And in many ways, all of the major holidays that tie around this time of year kind of tie back to the solstice. And that's sort of what Ingersoll is hinting at there. So we're going to move on to another little essay that he wrote. This essay comes to us from 1891. It doesn't appear to have been printed in a newspaper, but it could have very well been. Thoughts on Christmas, 1891. It is beautiful to give one day to the ideal, to have one day apart, one day for generous deeds, for goodwill, for gladness, one day to forget the shadows, the rains, the storms of life. To remember the sunshine, the happiness of youth and health, one day to forget the briars and thorns of the winding path, to remember the fruits and flowers, one day in which to feed the hungry, to salute the poor and lowly, one day to feel the brotherhood of man, one day to remember the heroic and loving deeds of the dead, one day to get acquainted with children, to remember the old, the unfortunate, and the imprisoned, one day in which to forget yourself and think lovingly of others, one day for family, for the fireside, for wife and children, for the love and laughter, the joy and rapture of home, one day in which bonds and stocks and deeds and notes and interest and mortgages and all kinds of business and trade are forgotten, and all stores and shops and factories and offices and banks and ledgers and accounts and lawsuits are cast aside, put away and locked up, and the weary heart and brain are given a voyage to fairyland. Let us hope that such a day is a prophecy of what all days will be. So that one's a little shorter. It's a little nice, but you can certainly see the poetic nature of him. Robert Ingersoll was definitely influenced by a few different writers. He used to say that Shakespeare is my Bible and Burns is my hymn book. Burns, of course, referring to Robert Burns, who is a very well-known poet, I think of the 18th century. And of course, Shakespeare is William Shakespeare, the playwright and poet, who, of course, is Shakespeare. I mean, there's really no explanation there. Ingersoll is also very influenced by Thomas Paine, and particularly Thomas Paine's writings on liberty and democracy and religion, particularly the Age of Reason. There's something about Paine's writings very similar to Ingersoll, where they're both eloquent but plain-spoken, very elegant but, understandable and accessible. And that's what I love about both of them, and particularly about Ingersoll. So, our final selection tonight comes to us from the Boston Arena, December 1897. And it's one of my favorites, and we're going to close out with this particular one. It's called What I Want for Christmas. If I had the power to produce exactly what I want for next Christmas, I would have all the kings and emperors resign and allow the people to govern themselves. I would have all the nobility drop their titles and give their lands back to the people. I would have the Pope throw away his tiara, take off his sacred vestments, and admit that he is not acting for God, is not infallible, but is just an ordinary Italian. I would have all the cardinals, archbishops, bishops, priests, and clergymen admit that they know nothing about theology, nothing about hell or heaven, nothing about the destiny of the human race, nothing about devils or ghosts, gods or angels. I would have them tell all their flocks to think for themselves, to be manly men and womanly women, and to do all in their power to increase the sum of human happiness. I would have all the professors in colleges, all the teachers in schools of every kind, including those in Sunday schools, agree that they would teach only what they know, that they would not palm off guesses as demonstrated truths. I would like to see all the politicians changed to statesmen, to men who long to make their country great and free, to men who care more for public good than private gain, men who long to be of use. I would like to see all the editors of papers and magazines agree to print the truth and nothing but the truth, to avoid all slander and misrepresentation, and to let the private affairs of the people alone. I would like to see drunkenness and prohibition both abolished. I would like to see corporal punishment done away with in every home, in every school, in every asylum, reformatory, and prison. Cruelty hardens and degrades. Kindness reforms and ennobles. I would like to see the millionaires unite and form a trust for the public good. I would like to see a fair division of profits between capital and labor, so that the toiler could save enough to mingle a little June with the December of his life. I would like to see an international court established in which to settle disputes between nations, so that armies could be disbanded and the great navies allowed to rust and rot in perfect peace. I would like to see the whole world free from injustice, free from superstition. This will do for next Christmas. The following Christmas, I may want more. And here's to wishing you a happy holidays. Merry Christmas from all of us here at Reason Revolution. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. I hope you've enjoyed this short episode. I hope that Ingersoll's words inspire you to have a wonderful time this holiday season. He always inspires me and always makes me want to write better, be better, do better. And I hope that that's the same for you. And with that in mind, honestly, from the bottom of my heart and from my family to yours, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year. And I have a lot of great things planned for next year for Reason Revolution. I can't wait to get into them. But for now, let's just celebrate the time that we have with ourselves and with each other. You can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, and now Google Play. You can also follow our Facebook page, facebook.com/reasonrevolution. Check out reasonrevolution.org, our website. All episodes and additional content are there. Working on a bunch of new essays as we speak. And you can also follow us on Twitter. We have a new Twitter now. It's at Reason Revolution Pod. That's at Reason Revolution Pod. Then you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and YouTube at The Daily Clark. And until next week, this has been Justin Clark, and this has been Reason Revolution.